Hi, my name is Randee Dawn, and I'm with Gold Derby. Today, we're here with Jeremy Piven, star of The Performance, in which he plays a masterful tap dancer who's invited to Europe to perform with his troupe. Unfortunately, they are invited in the mid 1930s as the Nazis are taking power, and Europe is becoming a very dangerous place, especially for Jews. Jeremy, let's start out at the top. The Performance is based on an Arthur Miller short story, and if I read right, it was your mom who brought it to you into your attention in the first place. Is that accurate?
Yeah, my mom isn't your average mom. She's been my acting teacher since I was 8 years old, and she's an artist, a teacher director herself, and she when she gives me something, it always lands. She's not very frivolous. She handed me the short story, The Performance, and she said, "There's a great role in here for you," and boy, was she right. It's the role of a lifetime, and oddly enough, Arthur Miller, everything that Arthur Miller's ever done has been bought and produced and celebrated, and he's won, countless awards, and he's incredibly prolific, and he's a genius. He won that little award called the Pulitzer, and somehow I was blown away by it, and went to his daughter, Rebecca Miller, to get the rights, and she, in an act of madness, allowed me to make the film. My sister came to me and said, I'd love to take a shot at adapting it as a screenplay and directing it. And I thought, that's a terrible idea, but let's do it anyway. No, she's and her partner, Josh Salzberg, are, they wrote this script and it was so good. I had to immediately read it again because it's just, the film, Arthur Miller's work is intimidating, and yet this is a sketch, the short story, and they completely explored and heightened the story and fleshed it out so beautifully that it's something that kind of an actor lives for.
Absolutely. So, what specifically about? I mean, yes, it's Arthur Miller that's got all these great hallmarks to it, but what is it
Mhm.
about the story itself that really caught your attention and made you want to devote a lot of time to it?
Um, I really identified with Harold May, the lead character. He's as close to me as any role I've ever played in my life. People used to ask me all the time, how much you like Ari Gold, and that was such a fun character to play, and that character exists. It was based on Ari Emanuel, and Harold May is as close to me as anything I've ever done. It was so personal. He is a tap dancer in 1937 who loves what he does, and he's unable to have a family. He's not really, his career doesn't have the momentum that would lead him to be, a breadwinner, enough to support a family. And ultimately, he gets an offer from Robert Carlyle, plays Damian Fugler, and so perfectly. I can't imagine anyone doing it better. And he's eccentric and charming and seductive and terrifying, and everything that you could hope for in a villain. And he, in a way, represents ambition because he makes me an offer that my character cannot refuse. And so the movie ultimately is about how much of yourself will you compromise for success. And so that's a universal theme. And then you add on top of that, I can't tell you too much, but it really is the ultimate example of the power of storytelling, in the way that you get to live with these characters, and then they show you a certain type of hatred, of anti-Semitism, racism, fill in the blank, any type of oppressor and oppressed. It's a perfect example of that, and the absurdity of it. But it does it in such a way that when I read it, I thought, if we could pull this off, it'll be the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Right, right. And you ended up having the rights for, I think, like a decade or a little bit more than a decade.
15
Hollywood.
years, and I was paying for it every year, and
Oh,
I'm
really? So it was,
Jewish.
it was renewed
And
every year.
yeah, being Jewish, that really hurt me, having to pay for it every year. I like to speak in stereotypes, apparently. No, no, it. listen, when my mom gave me the short story 15 years ago, my character is an expert tap dancer, and part of the power of actors is we're wildly delusional. And I didn't think for a second, oh, I don't tap dance. I just thought, oh, okay, it's time to go to work. And I started studying with Jared Grimes, who ended up being our choreographer, and he's in the film, and he was my tap teacher for the past 15 years. And we heard no every year. It's I've never heard no so many times in my life, and finally, every year I heard no. I just got better at tap until divine timing. Here we are. The movie opens December 13th in Chicago.
Right. And so what makes it sort of like the right movie for now? I mean, obviously you can't always know how Hollywood is going to give you the money or the producers are going to come along, but like why is now the right time for this film?
Well, unfortunately, I think because of the war overseas and the rise of anti-Semitism, and the idea of never again means never again, and yet somehow right now there seems to be um, a rise in hatred in general, and confusion about history, and it's not black and white, um, and there are nuances here, and I think a film like this has already started uncomfortable conversations that I've had in the room, and I welcome that, and they've been very passionate, and we have access to so much information, but where does that information come from? And this is not a film about modern day politics. This is um, I think a way that I can contribute to this conversation right now is through what I do best. Is I'm an actor, and this is I was lucky enough to produce this film, and so we're storytellers, and that's how I contribute to this conversation. Um, and from that we can really unpack a lot of stuff that's going on right now, and maybe listen. I really believe no matter where you're coming from, if you're available to have your mind changed in any way, we're on to something. That's amazing. But if you see things a certain way and you're defined by the way you see things, that's when we start to get into trouble. And I don't know how we got on this TED talk, and I apologize. But listen, I'm 200 years old. I'm over 80 movies into the game. This is the best thing I've done in my life. I'm getting notices I've never gotten. People are like, "You've disappeared."
Well, so I want to get back onto that in a little bit too, but
I'm going to
before
finish
we
my sentence.
Oh, I'm so sorry
Damn
you were
it.
drinking. Please go for it.
No, I was saying that the response has been you've disappeared into this role, and the reality is I've reappeared, because this is more like me than anything I've ever done. An actor lives for a great script, and for the where to place yourself, to be as specific and grounded and real as possible, so you can play the givens of any scene. And this was, Robert Carlyle, the best actor I've ever worked with in my life, and he deserves all the love for this role. People didn't know it was him. I'm playing opposite him, and he's in a real Nazi uniform. I mean, and we're in Slovakia, where the Holocaust, a lot of the beginnings, it's kind of started there in a way. Anyway, the history is so heavy, and so it's so thick that just playing the givens of these scenes it was overwhelming. And I think that's why I'm very hard on myself, but um this is definitely the best work of my life. And if I can be a little bit of an inspiration to people to stay after something and not give up, it would mean a lot to me, because 15 years is a long time to stay after anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm wondering, you're obviously in this business. You've been doing it a very long time. We've all spent, I don't know, 60, 70 years watching various anti-Nazi or movies one way or the other. But here we are again, right? Do you feel that entertainment movies can have has the ability to move the needle, especially since here we are again, sort of?
Well, the great thing about storytelling is you take out that element of being didactic, with a speech or a tweet or something that is a bit one dimensional. And here you're with us and you're living with us for a couple hours, and it's the power of storytelling, and what an honor it is. And listen, if I pitched you as I did for the past over decade, what this film is, you most likely would laugh in my face. I'm a Jewish tap dancer in 1937 that dances for Hitler. Yeah, check please, and it's a wrap. You know what I mean? Like, just the idea of what this is doesn't make any sense, or it's funny, or you can't tap dance, or whatever these, elements or preconceived notions that people have about something. Um, but this is a much different take on anything that we've ever seen dealing with this time period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, 6 million Jews were killed. That is not made up. And genocide, the term came from the Holocaust, and now it's being used in different ways. And their mandate was, to kill homosexuals. And I don't want to give away too much, but a member of my troupe is gay. And, you know, I think it's important that we understand our history, that can inform us moving forward. And yet, listen, I've never had an experience where I'm with an audience and they're gasping at certain points in this film, and that they're with this film. I think that this is something that that's a very long-winded way of answering your question. Yes, I do. I do think that telling stories are incredibly powerful, um, and it can make people think and question, and that's what we need to do. We need to communicate with each other now and hear each other and understand each other. I grew up in a community where I was one of the only white boys on my football team growing up. I was so very lucky to grow up in an integrated culture. One of the only truly integrated high schools, about 4,000 kids in my high school, Evanston Township High School. Look it up. Um, and I'm going home there for our film, which is perfect. But I got to be immersed in other cultures from a very early age. Very lucky. And I think part of what racism is, or anti-Semitism, is a lack of knowledge. That's what it is about someone else's culture. And so we need to educate people about that through storytelling, and that's one of the many reasons why I made this film.
Certainly.
Sorry for the long-winded
No, no,
answers.
no. These are interesting answers. I definitely want to hear it all for sure. But I'm gonna move into a slightly less heavy area for just a minute, which
Okay.
is, so what's it like getting bossed around by your older sister, who's being the director? I mean, I know you guys have worked together in various roles on other films, but this is the first time she's directing you, right?
She directed Shira and I, my sister, my older sister Shira,
Mhm.
who's a brilliant director. And I know you're going, at your sister, but I mean that. No, no, no. I had all the faith in the world in her. She comes from the theater, from the stage. We both do. I started at 8 years old, and so we're on shorthand. Um, she has the ability. She's an actor's director, so she can give you a note that can help you unlock or see things from a different, or something that you may have forgotten to add to a scene, which may sound like you're thinking, well, every director can do that. Well, not every director, grows up in the theater and are having to articulate themselves to actors, or being articulated by our parents, in this case, who are our teachers and our directors. So yeah, we grew up in the work, and we had a couple moments. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't disagree with her. And I forgot that I was the producer of the film because I've been an actor my whole life. So I'm having this moment with her and I'm thinking, oh, and this sounds so cliched and it's ridiculous. I was thinking my character wouldn't wear this. And, so we had a moment and I forgot that I was the producer. I could have just said, shut up. No, I could have, I don't know. It was a dream. It was incredible. We were lucky to have each other. But yeah, there were moments, I'm not going to lie to you, where, listen, it all worked out. I mean, miraculously. I can tell you that I broke 8 ribs. And she said to me, she was the adult in the room and said, you don't have to do this. You have a stunt man right there. And I did. And he was more equipped than I am, than I'll ever be to do stunts. He was better looking. He was younger, stronger. He had better hair. He smelled better. He was beating me on every level, and he was Turkish. He was adorable. And I decided to do it myself. And she's like, look, you don't have to do this. But I'm thinking as a producer, we've got 3 more scenes. I know all the choreography here. Let's go. And I broke 8 ribs. Now, the reality is, I was very lucky to heal up very quickly, and we had to stop production. The dance number that we did when I got back was something that I wanted some time for. I wanted shot in a certain way. I'm telling you too much now, and I apologize. She and I were at odds about how I wanted to accomplish this dance sequence. And everyone in my troupe, all the actors, they're all British actors, and they grew up in a system. I come from, you know, drama school as well, and I could bore you with all the different places I've been to, and they did as well. But it's mandatory over in the UK that you study tap. So they were well versed in tap. One of them's a tap dancer. One of them's a former ballet dancer. Mamie has been a tapper her whole life. So, I came late to the game. So I'm struggling to keep up with these guys. And they were kind of on a whole other level. So I got there in the end, but it was humiliating getting there. I'm not going to lie to you because they pick up, they're like, okay, we're going to spin here. We're going to end the gink. And they would get it immediately. And I'm going, because I grew up as an actor learning my blocking, but not doing choreography. So I was the challenged one in the group, even though I was supposed to be the leader. So I needed to get it until I mastered it. And to be honest with you, ironically, breaking my ribs allowed me to master the final sequence in a way that I wouldn't have been able to, where you can use all my dancing and everything in one take. So, what I'm saying to you is I sacrificed my ribs for the film. No, everything works out. Divine timing.
Absolutely. And going back to the tapping part of things, since you had this for all those years before it got made into a film, do I understand you were taking some tap lessons? You were learning tap that entire time, or did it just happen when it got picked up?
I was learning tap the entire time, and I have it documented, which is fun. I mean, Jared Grimes, our choreographer and my teacher, you know, I'll never forget how we started. And he was so patient and kind with me, and he's basically the Michael Jordan of tap, and he's on Broadway now, and blah blah blah. He's an absolute stud, and he was very patient with me, and so he's been working with me for 15 years, um, to get to the point where, look, I said to Shira, my sister, this is the one time I told her where to put the camera. I'll be totally honest with you. I said, you got to start on my feet. Leo, who's our DP, who's a genius. I said, start on my feet and pan up to my face to open this movie so the audience can see me tapping and know, okay, we're in good hands. This guy can tap. You don't have to look, try to spot when it isn't me. So there's that moment off the top where it's revealed that it's me tapping because I really want the audience to feel comfortable with me as a tap dancer and to enjoy the ride.
Right.
So yes, to answer your question, I never stopped taking tap the whole time. And the way that I gauged it, to be honest with you, the breakthrough that I made was it wasn't enough that I was tapping. I had to tap all the time. So I was tapping in elevators. And at first, people were kind of like, "Are you all right? Is everything?" Because they thought maybe I had an affliction or something, you know what I mean? Because it just didn't sound right. And then people were like, "Oh, you tap dance." And that's how I knew these sounds are beginning to feel and sound like something real. And that was a real shot in the arm for me, and I just stayed with it.
Let me ask you real quickly about Harold May, the character. So he at one point in the story, he talks about he's been passing for most of his life, and that's a major element of the story. We don't want to give anything away or whatever, but like I'm curious if how first of all how that may have resonated with you, and also the choice to make him blonde. Is that meant to also convey this passingness of him, or
Yeah,
is
yeah, it's fun. It's funny. My blonde wig looks like your beautiful hair. I don't have a lot of beautiful blonde hair, but I went to great lengths to secure that look, and um, it's in the story. We were very true to Arthur Miller in that way. It opens by saying, that Harold is blonde, and no one has ever thought he was Jewish. He passed. They use the word past his whole life, and I use it in the film a lot. So it was very important that my character was blonde, and so that he really felt like that he wouldn't, and being American in those times, that he wouldn't be susceptible to the Nazis, and you know he the thing that I hear from people that I love is Jews, non-Jews, whoever, that watching my character's journey, they wanted him to stop and go back and be sensible. And yet they understood why he did what he did. And this is the way life is. When you're after something and you're obsessed with it and you really are very focused on playing through at all costs, um, you're justifying a lot of things. And that's what Harold's doing. And until it leads us to that turning point moment with Robert Carlyle, um, where I knew in that scene, to be totally honest with you, if we didn't get that turning point scene right, the whole film wouldn't make any sense. And so yeah, Harold's blonde, very important. Arthur Miller, we were very careful to keep as much of his stuff as we possibly could.
Yeah, I tried to track down the story, but apparently it doesn't seem to be in the New Yorker archives. So I was looking.
Really?
Yeah, I
Really?
went through their archives. I couldn't find it. Maybe it's there and I just couldn't find it. But I am
Well,
hoping to
we're
read it one of these
we're
days.
Rebecca's been incredible to us, and we'll talk to them because we should probably, it would be really fun to do a story, and then they could release the short story again with the film. And Rebecca, who is a brilliant filmmaker in her own right, and she's married to Daniel Day-Lewis, who was on the call when I called her to pitch myself for the rights. He was in the background, and it was the most intimidating phone call of my life. He's the greatest living actor, so that was terrifying. But thank God she allowed us to have the rights, and she saw the film, and she's tough. She's very honest. She's brutally honest, and in times where people aren't, and I really respect that. And she said, "Oh, it's so dad." She gave us this her approval, which meant everything.
That's beautiful. I bet you that was really encouraging. I am wondering because I know we're short on time now, but I'm wondering, are you still tapping in your spare time, or have you sort of shuffled off to Buffalo now?
Oh no, I'm shuffling. I'm shuffling off to Buffalo whenever possible. Yeah, I mean it's really annoying for people to be around me, I think, to be honest with you. Because if I'm standing there and there's a hardwood floor that, oh, this sounds good acoustically, so I'm keeping my ankles loose in case, you know, my number gets called. Literally. I know you're laughing.
No,
Don't laugh.
no. Look,
You got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready, man.
absolutely.
When we're at the AMC River East Theater, see how I did that? On December 13th, 15 years in the making, I get to go home and play my theater, play my movie in Chicago for my people with my sister. You know, they're gonna go, let's see it. What do you got? And I have no problem bringing a tap board around with me. I don't care. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Excellent. Well, look, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have an amazing award season. I hope it all goes smoothly. I hope you continue to tap in elevators whenever you feel like it.
Thank you. Thank you. I shall. And
thank
carry
you.
on with your beautiful blonde hair.
Oh,
I should
thank
have
you
worn
very
my
much.
wig. We would have had matching hair.
Exactly.